Okay. We had 9 people waiting about 2 minutes ago. Where's everyone gone? Welcome. Feels like I was only here 5 minutes ago to another edition of Shogun Gut Reaction and Review. We've got a couple of our regular people missing tonight because they're off on normal things like dates and social activity, you know, where you meet people in the real world. Should try that sometime. Let's just have a look at some of the comments in the chat. We have T3, Caney Color. I don't think I've seen you on the channel before, so welcome. T3, is that like a sort of Terminator model? One of the more advanced versions. My Japanese wife and I always have a bit of a chuckle when either culture insults the other in Shogun. It is very entertaining at times. Looking to be the best miniseries of the year. It is already so far. So far, it has not been beaten. Nix, no, you're not banned. For you, you're allowed to be on as many streams as you want. Darth Plato, maybe putting an appearance shortly. And Vex Electronica, who was on our channel the other day, dropping in. So let me welcome in my guests. We won't be streaming for too long this evening because I actually want to try doing a game test after this. And yeah, I'll get into that. But first, but by no means least, it's the man with the luminous green hat. Oh, are you in the middle of making a drink?
Yes, I am. I
just
got home. So
I see you've actually taken off that June t-shirt. I imagine it was probably ponging a bit after 20 days.
It's still around, you know.
Wear.
Come on, it's a classic. Yeah, this is good. Let's see. I got this for we watched Gone Baby Gone, which I'm sorry I fell asleep for your thing because I was really
that's right.
But this is let's see, Bentley's blended whiskey. So
just to clear that up for people watching, he didn't fall asleep during my stream, but before it because he was exhausted.
Deal with saving time. See, you got to drink.
You were missing from the Nielsen ratings. So I'm going to tell you to watch a show called Prosper, which is about a megachurch.
Wow.
Making inroads to America. It's a drama. It stars Richard Brockberg. It's very good. Kind of got lots of parallels with Hillsong. I've seen the first 2 eps. Pretty good so far.
Well, as you told chat, man, I do it every week. I watch it once again this morning, get home off work, make a drink and stuff, and just have like some popcorn. I sit down, turn all the lights off, and it's like being at the cinema again every single Wednesday morning.
Next we have Darth Plato. Here he is, the man wedged between 2 speakers in a tiny cupboard.
Well, thanks for having me on. You're good to be back here. How you doing, Blue Collar? I got a serious question for Blue Collar. I love the other day the Captain America outfit.
Oh yeah.
On Masters of the Air.
Yeah, but do you have one for Wonder Woman?
You know, it's on. Okay. As soon as Lance wants to do Wonder Woman, sure.
Okay. I can't see that I'm going to be doing a stream on Wonder Woman anytime soon, unless it's the 1970s Wonder Woman.
I mean, it's Linda Carter one, and damn.
Now, before we get into, I'll do my usual breakdown of episode 5, and then we'll talk it over. But before we get into that, we got something wrong last week, which I said at the beginning. I think this happened. That was actually Mariko who slept with Blackthorn. Has been confirmed in the official treatment synopsis for episode 4 that it was her and not a courtesan.
Yeah.
Hence why, but she sort of says that it was a courtesan at the breakfast the following morning, and he kind of plays along, but it was her.
Yeah.
So they have slept together.
Well, it's like you said, Lance, it was such a good, like a misconception and this like change of like direction where you weren't sure. You had to watch it a second time to notice, like, was it really her?
Well, it was shot so that she was, I mean, you could kind of see that it really looked like her, but you weren't sure.
Yeah.
I did watch it a couple of times and I thought, well, is it or isn't it? I feel like it is her.
Yeah.
And then somebody said, no, it wasn't. I'm sure that was all Leroy's fault. Yeah. So we'll blame it on him.
Like you said, she was next morning. She was playing it off, but it wasn't.
I didn't think it was either.
Yeah.
Yeah. Leroy's and Darth's fault. There you go. It was both of their fault. Yeah, Dan Candy says he knew all along. That's what I said. I thought it was her. But then I was corrected. But now I'm recorrecting.
Sure.
So,
it wasn't in the original.
5. Well, we are going to get into some stuff in episode 5. There's not quite a lot happens in episode 5, but there's not any like big. Well, there is one big surprise, which if you mute the first 10 minutes, Nix, then you'll be all right. All right. So, Broken to the Fist, an interesting title for episode 5. Well, let's get into it. So, fairly spectacular ending to episode 4 with people being killed by cannons and horses being blown apart and men suddenly butchered where they lay wounded. And then we have our pre-title sequence. Is it me or are there some elements in the title sequence that are changing between episodes?
I didn't know.
I missed it myself. I skipped it.
Yeah, I need to check that, but I felt like when I watched it this time, and maybe it was just that I was paying more attention.
Yeah,
that I saw things I hadn't seen before. Hey, thank you, Suzanne Eckstein, for subbing to the Outcast Creative.
awesome.
Next time I do my wargaming stream, you'll have a unit named after you called the Ecksteins. Okay, so so let's get into it then. Well, thousands of troops arrive. Toranaga's got an army. We kind of hear them coming over the hill. It's all rather spectacular. Looks really good. CGI, but it looks good. And then now we're having a spoiler now. So anyone who doesn't want the spoiler, mute us now. And then I'll put a thumbs up when the spoiler is complete. So spoiler coming up now. When this army returns, of course, we find out that Buntaro, also known as Lord, is it Toga? Because him having two names is very complex. I have enough trouble remembering everybody's name in this show.
Lord Buntaro Toga.
Yeah, thank you. So Lord Buntaro Toga, he has this is Mariko's ex-husband, or not ex-husband, husband. He has. We thought he had died, but no, he hadn't died. He in fact had fought his way out, accompanied by a
beautiful shot, man.
Platoon of samurai or something. This is very Lord of the Rings. This show.
That is just like you said. I'm sure right here in the background it's all digital, but this has got to be what, 4 rows of actors probably. I'm guessing. I don't know.
Probably about 4 or 5 rows.
Yeah, and just right there, just
and then they'll shoot, and then also what they'll do is they'll take those 4 rows and they'll reverse them. So the back row will be shot in the front, and then the third row will be second, and so on, and they'll move them around.
Yeah.
So they'll have several blocks where the front rows are always different faces, you know. That way you get more out of your 40 guys. They become like 4,000 guys.
But for a TV show and a digital effect, it's like, boy, to the average person, they're not really gonna notice.
Hey, it's Jill. Jill's in the chat. Jill, if you've seen or you've been watching Shogun and you want to come on, let me know and I'll drop you the link. So thousands of troops arrive. So Mariko's husband has in fact survived. That results in some embarrassing looks between various characters. Oh dear, perhaps I shouldn't have had some but there we are. So now she feels very guilty. We cut back to the council. Yeah, the council's always in Osaka. Is that right? I think they're always in Osaka. You know that?
It seems like it.
Is that where the council are in Osaka? I think so. Yeah. So we cut back to the council. It's currently the council of 4. They want Lord Toranaga impeached. To do this, they need to agree to his replacement on the council. And it is what follows is quite a funny scene where each one of them suggests a potential to be the new 5th council member, and somebody else who's already on the council always hates that person. So no one can agree on who the new 5th council member should be. That sequence ends with one of them choking on his food. And I actually thought someone had poisoned him and he was about to drop dead, and now there was only going to be three of them.
I was wondering that myself, because it was
Yeah.
it's kind of like went on for longer than I anticipated.
Yeah, and then Lord Ishido kind of gives him a sort of, not a "you've been poisoned" look. He gives him more a, "for God's sake, man, can't you even eat your food properly?"
Yeah, I thought when I saw that scene, I thought that he was sitting there going, "This actually gives me an idea."
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He should
maybe.
just poison the rest of the council so he can handpick who all the replacements are.
Yeah.
So we cut back to Mariko, who's discussing her husband's escape with Toranaga, during which time she gives him a diary that she's kept. It's not Anjin's diary. It's a diary that she has kept on Anjin's activity while Toranaga's been away. I guess what he's achieved, who he's spoken to, customs he's learned, that kind of thing. Bontaro, who's Mariko's husband, is to be moved into Anjin's house with her. They're all going to live there together. Happy families, fun time.
Yeah. That won't be awkward.
She's not really looking forward to that. Then there's a scene where Lord Toranaga discusses with her how he feels that his son was tricked into firing those cannonballs and thus effectively starting the war. Toranaga's son then arrives. Mariko leaves, and what proceeds then is a kind of a sort of Japanese bollocking scene where various kind of man who goes to a bed with itchy bum wakes up with smelly finger. It's one of those kind of stories. Toranaga explains to his son and says, "Until you learn this lesson, I'm afraid I can't give you an important position."
She talks about being a falcon.
Yeah. My itchy finger analogy was cutting to the chase. So yeah, he has a falcon that's hunting, and it's all to do with how men can sometimes act as falcons and be easily led and this kind of thing.
Yeah, that's actually a really good sequence though, because he's sort of laying out for you through that medium his MO for how he deals with people, how he sees people.
Yeah. Toranaga and Toranaga is always one step ahead of everyone else. He doesn't do anything by accident. He's always thinking various moves ahead.
Yeah, I agree. Which is why I didn't like the part where he almost kind of lost control there. I didn't like that.
Okay. Well, I think it's good to show that he's not we don't want him to be flawless.
Sure. Okay.
He's got to have some flaws. So, maybe that's good to show that he almost loses control, but compared to others, not so much.
For sure.
That scene really reminded me of this TV show, which you guys probably won't remember, but it was the first kind of Far Eastern television show that I ever saw, and it was called The Water Margin. And this was like a big, epic sort of historical tale. It was shown in the 70s. Of course, it was all dubbed. Quite a violent show for its time. Lots of people getting stabbed with swords and all of this kind of thing. And it was all about political dynasties and people backstabbing each other. Lots of politics. Very Game of Thrones. I mean, it's obviously very dated now, but every episode of this ended with a proverb. Where like somebody talking about the falcon, and every episode there would be this voiceover with a proverb, and that's how it finished. If you remember The Water Margin, pop that in the chat and let me know.
It looks very much like things I've watched in the past. I might have seen it. I just don't remember it.
I need to rewatch it. It's one of those shows I've got to rewatch.
I also think it's a little funny that you said you guys might be old enough to remember, when I think it's actually debatable that you might actually be younger than me.
Oh, well, hey, there you go. If I am, so much the better. I don't mind being younger than people. Being older sucks.
Yeah.
Anyway. So working through the plot, so the son obviously says, and is informed until he learns these lessons. He's not really fit to command the cannon unit, so that's going to be given over. Control of that's going to be given to someone else. Anjin is given a peasant as a gift, and when I say that, I mean a pheasant, not a peasant. Sorry,
I say, damn, okay.
Which has been killed by the falcon. He takes it back to the house. He's very pleased with it, and he explains that he's an expert in stripping down prey that have been killed and cooking them. But first of all, we've got to hang it up for a couple of days to enable it to ferment. I don't know in what nature of history this was ever done. But yeah, we'll come back to that.
Apparently the English were doing it.
Yeah, I don't ever remember reading about that. Maybe we were, but maybe we weren't so susceptible to getting flies, depending on the time of year, as feudal Japan. I'm
glad they included this scene, by the way, because I was going to mention last week that they seem to have left that scene out, but they included it this week instead. What they did about
it's not in the Richard Dudall but Chamberlain version, is it?
It is.
I don't remember the thing with the bird on that. The dead bird.
Oh, it's definitely there.
Oh, I might have
another scene that they had that they left out in this version is the scene where Yabu said, "Oh, you have 6 months to learn the language, and if you don't do it in 6 months, then the village will be burned."
Yeah.
Yeah, so they appear to have left out that scene and replaced it with the part about training troops, except there's no penalty if you don't get it done in 6 months.
Right. So this bird is this roadkill almost is nailed outside the house, where the household staff look at it mystifyingly and saying, "Well, surely it's going to go off. We need to cook it straight away,
and it's going to stink."
Yeah, and at one point, I think it's a bit later, but Anjin actually says no one is to touch this bird on pain of death. A statement that he'll come to regret.
Yeah.
Fuji and Lord Toda discuss Anjin, and there's quite a tense conversation.
Oh yeah, but it's a great scene though.
It is a great scene, wasn't it? A great scene. That I really love that actress. She's so good.
There's fire in the belly.
And she because this is the actress here, Tokuma Nishioka, I think you pronounce that. And he wants to know whether she has laid with the barbarian, and she tells him, well, he's no longer a barbarian, he's now Hamato. And it's quite interesting to see that her loyalty is more towards Anjin now than towards her own kind in some respects, especially where anything concerning honor is concerned. Kevin, so far there are 5 episodes, and I've given every episode either 9.5 or 10 out of 10. This episode for me was, well, we'll get into scores later, but it's up. She's fantastic. And she's as good as Anna Sawai as well. Really, really fantastic. But I mean, Mariko, well, could say a lot about her. Let's just continue through the story. So, so they had that discussion. That's a good scene. Then Toranaga, we're back at the camp, the army camp, and there's a great scene where he's sort of talking diplomacy with Yabushigi. Is that how you pronounce it?
I have it written down here. It's Yabushigi. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty. Yeah, and he kind of, it's quite clever because the way he plays that scene is he basically spells it out to me. He says, "I know you're playing both sides, and I know that my son, didn't come up with the idea of killing that envoy on his own, and somebody planted the seed." And he sort of puts pressure on him in a very subtle way, and gets him to reveal that his nephew was in fact responsible for seeding the thoughts with his son So Toranaga rewards his nephew's cunning by putting him in charge of the cannons, which is a very, very clever way of playing on people's loyalty.
True.
So DJ Play Nice, thanks for popping in, man. Not seen you before, but I have a feeling I know who that is, though. Yes, there is a movie of the Water Margin. It's basically taken from the show. The TV show was actually in 1973 was when it was first shown. It was shown in the UK, I think in 76. I haven't seen the remake. So then, meanwhile, Yoshibi and his nephew are searching for the spy. They're trying to find Toranaga's spy in the village, because they know every time Toranaga goes away, unless the spy is caught, Toranaga's always going to know what they're up to. So they're always trying to find who the spy is. We know the spy is the old man because we've been kind of told that from...
Yeah, but that's a dangerous game, though, because if they do something to the spy, Toranaga's going to know who's responsible.
Exactly. Yeah. Yoshibi also sends Dude with Eye Patch, I'm not quite sure of his name, to Osaka to entreat peace with the remaining members of the council and try and sort of, again, play both ends that side. But he's not going to go to Osaka because he knows if he goes there, he's probably going to die. Then we cut back to Anjin's house. Mariko and Fuji speak. It's tense. They're sort of having a meal together. It's a really simple scene, but the beauty of this show is that the simple scenes are so well done. There's so much tension in them. There's so much drama in them. The dialogue is always really on point. And there's this tension building when she's waiting for her husband to come back. The next day, Buntaro arrives. He inspects the house. Anjin greets him as Buntaro, but he wants Anjin to refer to him as Lord Toda. Mariko is very tactful with her translation. She never translates it exactly spot on. It's always slightly in Anjin's favor, but she's very clever at playing the diplomat in that scene, especially.
Yeah, she is.
So then they have their evening meal. Anjin/Blackthorn presents the guests with a gift, which is a rabbit stew that he's been working on. I actually wish we'd seen a scene of him trying to catch a rabbit in Japan, but Buntaro declines the meal, so Mariko is forced to do the same, which is a really awkward moment. So the two men end up having a drinking contest with pints of sake instead. You can imagine how that ends.
So happy.
And Buntaro grabs his bow and basically, says he can outshoot cannons and he's really skillful, and to prove his masculinity, he fires an arrow within a fraction of his wife's face through the wall. And the following day, we see that one arrow split the other from the two arrows that he fired right in the post where he said he was gonna hit them. The following morning, the bird is truly rank that's hanging up. Fuji desperately requests to Anjin that the bird should be removed, but Anjin doesn't have his translator, so he doesn't understand. Although personally, I think he would have understood. That for me was a little bit of a flaw in this episode. I think by now it's reeking, it's covered in maggots and flies. We can see that. Surely he could see that. I think at this point he would have said, yeah, okay, maybe I should take it down. But he's kind of consumed with going to find Mariko because he knows that her and her husband argued the night before. She was struck across the face, etc. There's a scene with an old man that I missed out where they're talking about rocks in the garden, who's basically the gardener of Anjin's home.
Yeah.
When he comes back, he finds that the bird has been taken down and buried because the smell started stinking out the whole village and people were complaining. He finds out the old man has taken the bird down. When he asks Fuji where the old man is, he finds out the old man has been executed because of Anjin's statement, which is no one was to move the bird on pain of death. and everybody took him literally, which upsets him. Fuji offers her life for this. Anjin refuses. He goes back to the camp. He goes to see Toranaga. We assume this is the same day, but it could be a couple of days, could be a lot later. And Mariko is there, so I think it's actually probably a few days, maybe a week later. And there's a very interesting line where Toranaga looks at them both and he says, "You have a shadow on both of you." And I feel like Toranaga knows that they've slept together. That's what I got from that moment in the show. We can discuss that in a sec. Be interested to hear people's thoughts in chat about that. Toranaga's cottoned on. Then we have the earthquake scene, far more effective than in the 1980 version. There is an earthquake in Japan, which of course are fairly common, especially back then. Toranaga disappears down a hillside. Anjin dives down to save him along with Toranaga's son. They manage to pull him out from being buried. But Toranaga has lost his swords. So Anjin makes the dramatic gesture of offering the swords he has been given. Now, previously, we thought that these swords held a big honor, but in this episode, we find out they don't actually hold any honor at all due to the memory of the man that they're attached to. And Toranaga knows this, but he also knows that for Anjin to give them or offer him to him, he respects that gesture, so he thanks him. Anjin races back to his house to find it's been partially destroyed, and Fuji has been injured, but I think she lives though. Don't think she dies. She appeared like she lives. But Darth, in the book, does she die at that point?
No, she's injured in both the book and the original series.
But she carries on. She's around.
Yeah, she comes back later.
Yeah. Okay.
So the bad news is we may be missing the character. We may be missing the character for a few episodes now.
Right. Okay. Then we cut back to Osaka, where Lady Ochiba, or I'll just refer to her as Lady Macbeth, because that's basically what she is.
Lady Ochiba.
In the show. She returns to Osaka, having been released. She was kind of the quid pro quo hostage while Toranaga was visiting the city. Ishido claims he would have given his life to protect her son, which is effectively what the council is doing until the son comes of age. But she turns around and says, "The time for politics is at an end. The council will answer to me." I love that line. It was great.
Yeah. And
then the episode ends. Well, wow. There. So that's a breakdown of the episode. Now, I'm curious to know in the chat if you're tuning in, and there are 13 of you. Thank you for tuning in and watching, giving us your time. We appreciate it. Put yes in the chat if you think Toranaga knows that Mariko, or suspects, he may not know for sure, but suspects that Mariko and Blackthorn have had a bit of so yes, or put no if you don't think so. I'm not interested in what happens in the book or what Toranaga may or may not know in the book. I'm asking you what you think of, if he knows or not, as it's conveyed in the show.
I'll tell you what though. If he does know, it's because that guy was playing Peeping Tom, which tells us that his duties as a spy really is quite encompassing.
Yeah, he may just suspect because of the chemistry between them or the way that Mariko is behaving. Well, we've got 3 yeses in the chat, or in fact, we've got 2 yeses and a hell yes, which counts as 2. So that's 4. So, Chris, what do you think about that? And I'm just going to mute myself for a second.
I never anticipated that, because when he says, you have a shadow, the both of you, I thought that because of their history. I mean, he's an Anjin and he has like almost a curse on him. And we come to find out a lot of her storyline through her husband and her history. She has a pretty dark history as well. So, I mean, I took it as like you have a shadow over both of you because you guys have pretty messed up past, and it's almost like they're cursed to having a bad life. And it's always amazing how 2 people can see a different scene and interpret it in different ways. But I mean, if he does know, then he's got some, like Plato said, some really excellent spies, because how the hell would that, that get back to him? It's something I never thought about. I just, I thought he was he's being more observant about, because the scene leading up to that was her translating. He's like, listen, I've trained your men. Okay, my duty's done. I want to take my sailors and go back home. I don't want to be here no more. And he's just like, of course, Toranaga's like kind of not insulted, but like, why? To him, it's like, why do you want to go back home for? Aren't you liking it here in a sense?
Yeah. Well, thank you.
I'm going to take a little different take on that.
Yeah.
So that scene takes place after the confrontation with Buncho Toda.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking that she's emotionally affected by that experience, and Toranaga notices that she's a little off her game. I think that's what he's really looking at her, not so much, and he may be saying, well, so what exactly is going on here that I don't know about and going on in Blackthorn's home? He didn't. I think that's more of what it is. Not necessarily thinking, oh, are they?
Yeah, interesting. I mean, that's also a plausible explanation. Dan Candy says his glance between the two when they're talking to each other said it all. He knows. He knows because reading people is his power. Actually, that's a good point as well.
That's true, yeah.
Toranaga is smart, clear from the first episode. Yeah, also true. Yeah, okay, well, yeah. In terms of Chris, do you have a favorite scene from the episode, or where are you at with your favorite character?
There is so much to unpack in this episode. So many different
there
is between spies and betrayals and husbands beating their wives. I mean, goddamn. Boy, I'm trying to think. I think was when Blackthorn flipped out on everybody, because again, it's like, you misinterpreted what he said, and to him it's like it's a pheasant, it's a friggin' dead rotting bird. He's like, and you get some little elements where he's making a friendship with these people. He's having a good chat, and he's learning the language, and he's seeing the old man with the rock in his garden, and you feel like he's forming a small bond with him. And it's like, you took this old man's life because I missaid a word, and he's so upset and he's learning their culture. He's flipping out like, your people have no value of life. You guys just care about death so much, and you just killed an old man over a bird. He's so appalled by their culture, but also, in their defense, their culture is based on this. People have said that the Japanese culture, to them, life and death is the same thing. But he's coming from England and different religions. So just seeing him flipping out, like, he's just screaming, all of you, get out of here, get away from me, because you guys just murdered somebody over a fucking bird.
Yeah.
Damn.
It's interesting. A couple of people think Toranaga might even be orchestrating their relationship. That's interesting.
Yeah, so Blackthorn comes from England, so he's a 1500s guy. Now, in those days, people in Europe were much more, shall we say, attuned to Christendom as they are now. So he would have been very familiar with the notion that our lives don't actually belong to us. So we don't have a right to, like, say, commit suicide. It's very clear in the scripture. So there's a value of life that is inherent in Western civilization in England that he's very mindful of, and you don't just casually snuff it out. And that's what Blackthorn has been noticing, is that the Japanese almost seem to have this callous disregard for life, like almost devilish. Like, what's wrong with you people? Like, wait, you killed the old man over that? Like, where the hell am I? That you can kind of see his kind of rising to the surface, his outrage because of where he comes from. But there's another side to this story, and that's the Japanese side of the story. The Japanese are really big on obligation, obedience, loyalty. That's the big thing over there. So it's not that they diminish life; it's that they look at it differently. I'm not an expert in Japanese culture from that time, so I'm kind of winging it here. But I get the sense that it's not that they devalue life. They do. They just have a different take on it. I don't know what their source for life is. Obviously, it's a little bit different from Christendom. It's a lot different from Christendom. But that's the impression that I got when I watched that scene, and it's really interesting to see that clash of cultures.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. I just want to correct myself. I named the wrong actor. It's Moika Hoshi, who plays Fuji. I think I named the dude that was in the still because they put the names the wrong way round. You can always bank on IMDb to do that. Yeah, I mean, damn, man, this show is so good. I can't praise it enough, really. You know, there's something to be mined from every scene. It's like, there's no scene that you watch that doesn't connect emotionally or story to something else in the plot. And there are, you know, one of the things I do is, apart from being an acting coach, is I'm also a script editor and script writing coach. And two of my sort of golden rules are, you know, one of them is every line of dialogue in a scene has to serve one of two masters. It's either got to tell you something more about the story, or it's got to tell you something more about the character. So, you know, obviously if a character keeps making jokes, you know, they've got a sense of humor, you know. If they keep asking questions, they're inquisitive. So every line of dialogue, there's no line of dialogue in this that doesn't fall onto one of those two categories. You're either learning something about the person who is saying it, or you're learning something about the person that they're speaking to, or you're learning something more about the story in the show. There's no kind of, it's cold today, you know.
Amen.
Even that line, "Watch the sunset with me," which might seem like a superfluous line, is actually an integral character bonding moment. It's really important. The fact that he asks that guy to do that with him, we learn later, is kind of a great honor. Sorry, Plato, jump in.
Yeah.
No, I just wanted to say amen. What you said was right on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As you said,
Dan
Lance,
Candy feels bad. No one tried his stew, but I think they were put off by the stench of the pheasant.
Yeah. That's what it was. Like you said, Lance, you know, you asked me like my favorite scene, but like, you know, to break it down, it's a 56-minute episode. There's still another. God, we could you know, talk about the 12 other plot threads going on. That's just one aspect of this 56-minute episode, and I'm intrigued by all the different plot threads. There's so much to unpack in one episode.
Yeah, bear in mind that we're now at the point where we're well past the halfway point of the 1980 series. So
yeah.
So I'm a little curious how they're gonna make up for it.
It's 5 episodes in, but there's 5 still to go. And I remember thinking, when we were 5 episodes into Masters of the Air, and there were only 4 left, and I was thinking, still, you know, I don't feel like we're getting anywhere here. You know, yeah, we've seen some missions and stuff, but I don't really feel like I care about these people or know much about these people. I mean, this guy here, who I know very little about other than he's got a scarred face, I'm already more interested in him than any character in Masters of the Air, you know.
Yeah, I do love the makeup job too on him. It's such a great, you know.
I think my favorite scene was probably the council scene when they're all trying to decide who to replace, and somebody says, you know, I recommend Hiruku. Oh no, you can't have him. If he comes here, it'll smell of Christians. And then somebody else suggests somebody else, and no, you can't have that person. They're an imbecile.
Yeah.
So they can't agree. They can't agree on anything. They can't agree on the price of fish, you know, which makes them weak.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, since you mentioned that, is the reason why they probably had Christian lords in the first place in Japan is because it was there was an advantage to it, because they would ask, well, in return for this, I'd like a more significant shipment on guns.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was. There's always something tactical, something like that, and you saw that in the Protestant Reformation too, when people were switching sides for reasons that weren't necessarily about religion, but more about money. I'm not going to get into that here. I'll tell you a little later more about that story. But there's a lot of reasons why people do what they do. And that guy on the council, who's a Christian, he probably is so because he's getting something out of it from the Portuguese.
Yeah. Yeah, as people said, Tornaga's so intelligent, Lance. The council scene, boy, this guy, he played his chess well, because, so we can't impeach him because by him resigning, he screwed us over. It's like, that's such a tactical move.
There's that other clever thing as well with the old man burying the pheasant, and therefore being executed. Now, we haven't seen him be executed. We've just been told. So we assume he's dead. I'm not going to assume anyone's dead unless I've seen it. He probably is dead, but let's just put that aside for 1 minute.
Yeah, he was in 1980.
Even if he is dead, I think he knew this guy probably had a word with him and may well have said, I need you to do something for Lord Toranaga, but unfortunately it's going to mean that you're going to have to die. You're going to remove that stinking thing from the village, and these people are going to find out that you're Toranaga's spy, which is not a dishonor. They're not going to mention it to anyone. Therefore, I reckon there may have been that conversation, and the old man may have been happy to die for Toranaga, or it may have just been a happy coincidence. Zax blames the peasant.
Well, that's just a temporary solution about misdirection with the spy, because he's still going to get information, and so Yabushiga is still going to go, well, wait, you're still finding stuff out. How many spies are there?
Yeah, I didn't see that payoff, Lance. That payoff was excellent. I'm like, was that planned by Toranaga? I don't know. At this point, like in the way it unfolded, I'm like, that was so well thought out.
They could have been crying from the stench, but yes, from the bird. This is the lady. I forget her character name now. Lady Ochiba, right?
Oh, is it Ochiba?
I think it is. Yeah. Is
Okay.
it this actress?
I thought it was the other lady. I'm sorry.
I think it's this actress. Unless
I thought Ochiba was older than this.
This is the oldest actress in the show.
Okay.
Yeah. No, this is no. She looks great, man. I'm sure you should find that as a compliment.
A bit girl boss vibes though.
Yeah. Yeah, she's an amazing character. It feels great that like she comes back in and she's got a massive presence. Unless this is the woman who's the nanny to the boy while she's been away, could be her. There's that character as well. I might be getting them mixed up, but I feel like Lady Ochiba is more likely to be featured in these stills than the nanny character. So I think it probably is her. That's the courtesan character, right?
Yes.
So I'm looking forward to seeing what else we're going to get from her. Then we have the earthquake.
Yeah.
scene.
So you guys, what do you think about his army? I mean, they're not all wiped out, but that's a lot. I mean, he took a loss though.
It's disrupted and demoralized for sure.
Definitely that. Wow.
Probably reduced. Probably about 30% of them have been killed.
Yeah, he definitely took a chunk out. Like,
very effective scene, much better, well done than the 1980s version where there's just several pits have been dug and a lot of camera shake, and still effective. But
I read something interesting is that that earthquake is actually based on a real event that took place in 1605. That was supposed to be a 7.9 earthquake.
Wow.
That's pretty heavy duty.
Yeah. I wonder how many people died in that. Nix has brought up an interesting point. The bird being the end of man might just be the origin story of Australia's war with emus. I feel that there is a film to be made about rampant emus in Australia, and I feel that's a film I need to see. So someone should make it, or a war with the kangaroos. Kangaroos are like, you think they're all cute and shit, but they're pretty deadly.
Yeah, I've been seeing more TikTok videos where kangaroos are. Kangaroos they can be assholes.
Yeah, they're pretty vicious. You've got to, and if they come at you, you've got to thump them. You've got to stand up for yourself. Otherwise, you've had it. So what's this clip you got here?
I thought just again small things. The payoff right here. Look what he's doing after the earthquake, and just him sitting here and cleaning the rock for the old man.
I know. I saw that.
I like that.
Very moving.
It wasn't something he needed to do, but after he was holding I can't forget her name. But her back was all torn up from the fire, and he's showing her some compassion. You see their friendship building, but at the end, just a small gesture. That's all it takes. No dialogue, no words. He's just cleaning off the rock that the old man was showing him about, having a strong rock in a garden. I'm like, again, just such great writing.
Yeah, it is really good.
That's a good observation. Yeah, I like that.
I'm amazed that this show has turned out as well as it has. I'm not quite sure if this is one of the cast, but I'm going to show this picture because what a pair of boots. There you go. That's a pair of shoes. I think this is at the premiere of Shogun. I guess they showed the first 2 episodes or something like that.
Actually, let me ask something.
Yeah.
So during the dinner scene, there's a lot of candlelight. I'm trying to figure, was that scene really done in just candlelight, or does it look like it was some sort of artificial lighting?
Do you want to get the light up for that? Sorry, get the scene up for that, Blue, and we'll have a look at it. This is one of the few scenes that looks like it was actually shot with natural daylight. There's not many of them. Even that might have.
Definitely a little bit hard to tell because they keep going back and forth between Blackthorn and I can't forget the guy's name, but they're the sake cups. But yeah, there's a lot of that's hard to tell. I think it seems like candlelight, but I mean, you have some be judges right here.
Okay, so
yeah, I mean,
I would say that there's probably for example, you can't see it now, but the way that the side face is lit, you've got a candle there positioned for each person, sure, but when they do the close-ups, I'm sure they'll have a soft diffuser light probably, just to give them a bit more on their face. I mean, people do, because cameras now, with the types of cameras that you've got, and you've got several new digital cameras that have come out specifically for shooting at night, and it's the dynamic range on the camera. And I'm not a big, even though I'm a director, I always kind of left all this stuff to the DOP and would tell them what I wanted and say, how can we achieve this? And because that's their skill set, the director's supposed to focus on the actors predominantly when you're on set.
Yeah.
But the dynamic range of cameras has increased to such great degree that you can punch out the blacks and get the images with minimum lighting 100 times more effective than you could even 10 years ago. So I mean, the leap in technology.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good angle right there too.
Yeah.
So it's hard to tell.
I mean, it really is difficult to tell. Yeah, you could maybe have some soft diffuser lighting on that, or it might have been just done with the lights in situ that they've got. Difficult to know. I'd be interested to. It'd be great if we could get someone on and ask them, wouldn't it? Fantastic. Either of you want to mention anything else about this episode?
Plato.
Silence fills the halls.
Well, but just take for instance that dinner scene. You have so much, like 3 different almost arcs to unpack. Number one, we get more of a history about, because Blackthorn is kind of offended by the way you're treating your wife, and he's why do I owe you respect for? Tell me your history about who you really are and where you came from. Like, oh wow. And also, now, I'm American and stuff. I'm used to like different guys that are different enemies in a sense. You know what? Let's have some beers, some shots. We'll become friends. I was expecting possibly her husband to kind of soften up with the sake thing. Maybe they could become drunken buddies. That didn't happen, but it was kind of cool. Blackthorn kind of like, doing a pissing contest. Like, you guys have these small friggin' cups. We're taking a man's cup right here and drinking some sake, buddy. And they're trying to like, assert the whole male dominance. And like you said, we finally get a slow motion scene right by her nose. He misses her nose by like a millimeter of a second. And this guy has had like 6 effing cups of sake. He's pretty toasted too. And the fact that he's that nasty, and like you said, he shot a second shot that broke the first one. He did that shit drunk. And it's like, oh wow. And even the juxtaposition later on too. Now he's offended. Blackthorn pulls out his gun, like, he's pissed off. He wants revenge. And he comes to Blackthorn and he actually kneels down because I disrespected. This is still the Anjin's house, and I'm still a guest in your house. And I owe you an apology. And like, it's so much going on in that scene. Like, and even
That's a
husband's
really good moment in it. Yeah. Where
and
he's,
well, even
but
like
then when Blackthorn storms off and he looks up from his kneeling position, you can see he hates him. Absolutely hates him.
because even though it's like, because he said too, is like, where I'm from, Christians in England, we still treat women like their property, and husbands. Okay, 1600 guys. Sorry, it's 2024, but like women were property back then. It's how it is. And he's like, but even consider their property, you owe your wife respect. And then even Tornaga says, okay, he can treat his wife however he wants to, but I need my translator nice and healthy. So Tornaga knows that's the custom. He knows that he's beating his wife, but like, right now, you're not a wife, you're not important. The translator part of you is important. It's like, damn, all that in one like 10-minute dinner sequence.
That's the only time in that scene that she translates one of his insults almost literally. And I was quite surprised that she did. I was expecting her to be more tactful, but she actually wanted to get her own back in her husband a little bit, and so she did it through him, which was quite clever.
Oh, and I forgot too, like she's telling Blackthorn, and every year she wants to die because how her father had to execute every one of his kids, and once a year on anniversary, she begs her husband to die, and he orders her to live. Like that's dark. Oh my God, she's just
yeah, that guy's a real bastard for sure.
Yeah.
He did say a line though that really irks me, and I'm kind of offended by it. The same way that Lance, you're offended by the one scene in Masters of the Air where they had the briefing on December 6th when they're supposed to be just June.
Well, I wasn't offended by it beyond the fact that it was inaccurate.
Right, but I have that problem here with this scene where Boontreux says that my bow is faster and has greater range than your cannon. No, you don't. You absolutely do not. So I don't know if he's just dumb, if he's just saying that because he's dumb, or if the writers just don't really understand how cannon work.
I feel like that might have been more of a dick measuring.
That's how I took it.
Yeah. I think he was more making, as Maury would say, reference to my peni.
Yeah.
Okay.
And its abilities, but
remember, these guys look down upon Blackthorn because remember he's the savage barbarian that like has stinking pheasants and stuff, and he has these foreign cannons, and most people don't care about this barbarian. Of course, Tornaga's smart that we need his tactics and his superior cannons. That's why he's there for. But not everybody's adjusting to modern times the way Tornaga is.
I mean, the fact that just this is twice now we've done it on this stream alone. That we've talked about two different scenes with bits of dialogue that to different members on this panel have different meanings. Neither of those meanings could be correct. It's just down to interpretation and the brilliant nuance that the actors have put in the performance. The subtlety of the dialogue rather than always overstating the meaning. Again, nuance in the dialogue so that lines and characters saying one thing could mean 1, 2, 3 things. That's the beauty of this show. The fact that we're talking about it and debating what scenes might mean, because we're that engaged, we're that interested, is a credit to the show's writers, directors, the whole production team, really. And I don't think there was a single time when we were doing our Masters of the Air stream where we went, oh, that dialogue scene between those two characters was great. What did you get from that? I mean, there were some good acting moments, and we've said that the acting was consistently good, but there was never like I can't think of a scene now where I thought, yeah, wow, cool. I was really that moved to the point that I was thinking, oh God, the next time I watch that again, I'm probably going to cry.
Okay, so the one thing we do agree on is that this is a big step up from Masters of the Air.
I'm sure we agree on more than one thing.
Even small things. Remember, like when Yuriko or Muriko names, but Blackthorn's husband, he has to call him by a different name because that's only what his close friends call him. Like, oh man, you have to address him differently now too.
Yeah.
There was one line early in the episode that did kind of irk me though because it sounded like presentism, where he said, "Oh, we didn't ask for this." Like, wait, that's a modern line.
Wait, was that Blackthorn that said that?
No, it was one of the people early on in the episode.
Who was it? But which character said that? Was it one of the villagers or?
I think it was one of the villagers. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well. Yeah. But that that's the sort of flaw that you can forgive when everything else is so good.
Yeah.
The little flaws are I mean, yeah, it's like I said, if I had to nitpick about this episode, I would say, yeah, okay, Blackthorn coming out and sort of failing to spot that maybe the moldy, rotting pheasant with 1,000 flies around it needs to be taken down now.
Yeah.
It was a bit silly. But yeah, it's oh, that baby. Look at the face on that baby. But that's a nitpick. It's his mind was elsewhere, so he was looking after the woman he's falling in love with. I mean, the dialogue has to be modern to a degree. I think it has to be, modern to a degree, but not too modern. I feel it's still got. This show has something very Shakespearean about it. I like that.
Yeah, sorry, Liz got some background noise.
Yeah. Darth always has background noise. Tyrix Green says, Dude Pantaro is an arsehole to Mariko in episode 6.
Episode 5.
And that Yochiba is going to manipulate or toy with Mariko, which she wanted to do to her personal freedom and patriarchy, which shifts between Thrawn. I get the gist of what you're saying there, sir. Yeah. And Toranaga and Blackthorn consider each other to be barbaric savages. They start to learn might be more to one another's culture and worldview, learning curves while dealing with live events.
Yeah, that was a theme of 1988 also. This coming to learn one another.
Yeah. My score for this episode, it's another 9 out of 10 from me. What about from you guys?
Boy, I mean, for me, it's I'd still go 9.5. I mean, would say 10, but just about. I can't make them all 10, right? But 9.5 because just rewatching again, something simple. Because Blackthorn, he goes exact dialogue: "If touched, die." But he's just looking at almost jokingly, "If touched the bird, you're gonna die." I don't care. He didn't think that. Oh shit, you guys were serious. And he has a good scene with Mariko up there before the earthquake. Like, you guys, what the hell gave you that kind of power? And she's like, "Your words gave it power." And
that was a great line. That was such a good line.
I'm trying to find it right now. The exact
line. Was such a good line, because now he's got that certain status as well, which he doesn't quite recognize.
Yeah.
No, really good.
That's me. Something simple as something simple as a rotting bird was like half the episode. Like, oh shit.
We've got 14 people watching, so let us know your thoughts. What would you give this episode out of 10? And if you want, you can say where you're at with the show overall out of 10 as well. So put that as the second rating, if you like. For me, 9 out of 10 for this episode, and overall, I think the show is sort of 9 out of 10 as well. It's really strong. I mean, my complaints about the show are pretty minimal. It's nitpick here and there, but there's nothing that. I mean, the thing I've got to say is, if we get to the end of the season and the big battle that we know is coming is delivered to us in one Orson Welles line, and yes, he fought the battle and he won, and it's done as a voiceover, I'll be, fuck off. I want to see that. You can do that. You've got CGI. Give us the battle, please. So I will be annoyed if we don't see that. I'm expecting to see that battle at the end. And it better be
that's probably what
the deaths of the Sardaukar in Dune Part 2. That's all I'm saying. Yeah. So getting a lot of 9s here. Dan Candy bringing it a 9. Zach's 9 out of 10. Nix has said, I stopped watching at episode 3 because I want to dedicate time when I'm not tired to watch it. So far for me, the show is 8.5, 9 out of 10. Very good. He said it in that's his actual voice. I was replicating. So hearing about this episode brings me great joy. There we are. Good. So pretty much everyone's been happy about this.
Yeah, this is in my opinion, it's the best episode today. So I'm going to give it a 10.
Yeah, it definitely is very strong episode. So, I mean, Darth, you were reviewing Masters of the Air every week with our
I was.
and I had a discussion with her about that show, which was off camera, so I won't say what she said in case she wants to keep those thoughts private. But what was your overall on that?
I give it a 6 overall.
Yeah, that's what I gave it. 6 out of 10. It was a good show. It should have been way better.
Yeah, first half was better than the second half. That's all I'll say about it, because we're kind of rabbit holing in the wrong direction.
No. But interesting to hear your thoughts. I mean, yeah, it's weird to say that Shogun is the show that Masters of the Air should have been, considering the time difference in terms of history. But in terms of narrative engagement, this is what you want, and we could have. Yeah, okay. They've got to stick closer to a true story, but they fiddled around with loads of things, with people going on missions they didn't go on, and the narrative of Masters that took loads of liberties with the truth. And so, considering some of the big liberties they took, they could have easily. I don't know. I just feel that there was a total lack of human connection all the way through the story for me. With Masters of the Air. With this, I'm engaged in everything. I kind
of get the sense that they were probably trying to do too much.
Well, yeah, or just that they cut all the. I felt they cut all the emotional tissue out of the episode. Yeah. We know there were loads more dialogue scenes. Where were they?
That's been a funny thing too, Lance. Like play what we talked about the last time in the finale. Sometimes Masters of the Air, you had 4 different storylines branching out, but then with this show, you have sometimes 3 or 4 different storylines branching out. But this one, I'm invested with these. I don't know why.
Yeah, I mean that dinner scene was what 10, 12 minutes. It's a bit. It's a long scene.
Yeah. That's just one part to unpack. We have a spy.
It's like at the beginning of the season, they wrote on a board all the things that they want to hit in the season. We want to hit this all the way through, and then how can we get it all in? Oh, we can't get it all in, so let's just start pushing stuff out.
They forgot the most important box, which was clearly the one at the bottom of the list that said, and also make a very good show that's watchable.
Yeah. Well, definitely. Shogun doesn't care about diversity and representation.
No. I mean, there's no character in this that is superfluous to the story.
I think that they were basing it on a book, and the what's his name, the Mr. Alexander from the Red Tails was part of that manuscript. His story was part of that manuscript, and so because he was part of that manuscript, they wanted to get a story in. What the showrunners said when I heard in a block that I heard is that they were actually on their way to meet that gentleman to talk with him about the show they were doing, except he passed away before they arrived, and they were kind of really down about that, broken heart about that, about the bad coincidence about that, and I think that motivated them to really put the Red Tails into the story.
Well, I've heard differing accounts about that. I mean, in the early version, when it was called the Mighty Eighth, when it was just being developed, that was before John Orloff came on and wrote the Bible. There were no Red Tails in the proposal, the pitch decks, and all of that at all. There was nothing. I've seen the original pitch deck; they're not in there. When they found out that there were members of the Red Tails who were prisoners at Stalag 13 or 17 or whichever one it was, that's when they said, okay, we can put them in. But I just think there should have been an episode all just about the prisoner of war thing. That should have just been one episode. And all the prisoner of war stuff should have been in that episode, except for the pickup of that story in the last episode. So I think episode 7, maybe, all POW, basically. And then you introduce them. They arrive in the camp like everyone else. We don't see them go on a mission because it's not a story about those guys. But we meet them in the camp. We see some racial tensions, which there would have been. But we also see some camaraderie and some bonding, which there would have been. But instead, you just got this wishy-washy insertion. There was no racism at all because, of course, it didn't exist back then in World War II. Everyone loved each other. Absolute historical whitewashing nonsense.
Different people acted differently depending on where they come from.
No, absolutely. But in a prisoner of war camp like that, you're going to have a proper mix of personalities.
There's always going to be one guy. There's always going to be at least one guy that's going to be like, "Hey, what's your name, bar?" Kind of.
Yeah. All you got in the show was there was one guy. I think it was a guy with the gold teeth. When the black officers came into their bunk, he gave them a bit of a look, and he went outside for a smoke or something. That was it. Yeah. Nothing else. And I thought this is nonsense.
A very good comment by Zach. If you want to read it out loud.
So it sounds like you're saying that the interview that I heard that them give, it sounds like they were more interested in padding their image than they were in actually giving a real answer.
Maybe on the finale.
I'll have Mariko say that samurai armor will be perfect when it's made to fit a woman. Actually, that would be quite a cool line, though. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. Sorry, but it's worth mentioning in terms of just contrasting two shows that had similar production issues, because this was also delayed by COVID. Don't forget, this was also affected by the pandemic. It also had to change countries. It had all the same pandemic restrictions. There were a lot of people behind it. There wasn't just one person. So it had a creative team. It had a writing team. So, how is it that this show has turned out so well and that show turned out so mediocre? And that's a question that executives should be discussing in boardrooms, because this is the sort of quality of production that we want to see, with great writing, and it's a great story, and anyway, hey ho. So that's Shogun episode 5. Fantastic show. We're going to wrap it up there. Darth, do you want to plug anything?
Come back next week, same bat time, same bat channel for episode 6 review.
Okay.
Might be earlier because Lance was doing an interview. That's why I delayed him for.
Fantastic. Blue, you got anything you want to plug?
Tomorrow Ghostbusters comes out. I'm gonna go watch Ghostbusters, and also Lance, Roadhouse. I'm not sure what to expect, but I'll watch it. Why not?
I look forward to hearing about both of these on the Nielsen ratings next week.
Actually, let me say something about Ghostbusters. There's Frozen Empire. I kind of get the feeling this is the most inauspicious name for a movie since Attack of the Clones.
True.
Nick, I did do that earlier, but I think you missed it. So yes, it's a recommendation. Absolutely, 2000 sensor. So don't forget, this coming Sunday, we have a very special panel in the house, and we'll be getting into it. We'll be talking all about this. So make sure you're there at 8 o'clock UK time, 3 p.m. East Coast time, where the cast, some of the cast, the producer, and some of the production team behind the scenes will be coming in to discuss this amazing remake film with us here in the studio at the Outcast Creative.
Base, this is Station 31. Do you copy? This is Station 31, Base. Are you there? We found something. Something in the ice. The generator's down.
We're running low on supplies, and we're out of chocolate.
We're gonna run out of chocolate.
Not now, Janine.